Hi, this video is a technical overview of the sample capture software by DataNet. The purpose of the software is to capture sample data during geological exploration drilling. The software is comprised of two components, an Android application on the right-hand side of the screen and a PC client on the left-hand side of the screen. The software can be used in either a standalone mode with just the Android application, or it can be used with the PC client to manage variables and output data. First, I'll give a demonstration of how to use the system with the PC client, and then I'll demonstrate how the software can be used in a standalone email-only mode. After the software has been installed, there'll be a connection between the Android application and the PC client. Typically, this is over a Wi-Fi connection, although it can be over a 4G data connection as well. At the PC client, we have a host IP address and a port number. These are the details which we will connect the Android application to. If I navigate to the settings icon in the top right-hand corner of my Android application, the server target and the port will be shown. I can test that connection by selecting the button below, and I get a success message. By default, the application has various preset metadata for hole types. That is, we're collecting certain kinds of data about the hole being drilled and associating that data with the hole ID number. If these are not required, we can uncheck that option. Likewise, we have an option to require the shift, the area, and the depth. If we don't want to use those, we can uncheck those options as well. For now, I'll leave all of these options checked. We also have an option to require a primary barcode prefix and a duplicate barcode prefix. So an example of a prefix is a letter or a series of numbers that might come at the start of a barcode. So perhaps the primary barcodes start with the letter S and the duplicates start with the letter B. These prefixes can be anything that suits your requirements. The prefix also helps to prevent from scanning an unrelated barcode as part of their workflow. During the sample capture process, we'll also be capturing the weight of each sample. We can set a minimum weight, a maximum weight, and also set a warning when the weight is below or above a certain threshold. This might be necessary to help streamline the workflow and ensure that samples meet a minimum criteria. For each borehole, we can also record a random blank and a random standard. We can also record multiples of each if we want to. For now, I'm going to leave my random blanks at 1 and my random standards at 0. When the application has been configured to the requirements, we can also set a password to protect these settings from being changed without authorization. For now, I'm just going to leave this blank. And now we can take a look at some of the PC client variables. On the left-hand side of the screen, we have the PC client. This will be running on one instance of a computer somewhere in head office or administration. And this is where we can control what kind of data is sent to the handheld and where collected data is stored on the PC. The first option is where the application will go looking for its variable data, and the second option is where the application will upload its collected data for storage on the computer. We can choose each of these directories using the Browse button, and we can directly open the folders using the buttons here. In this case, this is my working path, and this is the variables folder that stores the variables which will be used at the application. If I open this file, we can see those variables are stored in an XML format, and they represent the same values that we've given over here. If we need to change any of these variables, we can select the Edit Variables button and then add or edit any of the variables that we want to change. When we finish making any changes to these variables, we can select the Save Variables button and we'll be notified that the data has been saved successfully. If I reload this file, we can see that the new variables have been added to this file. The next step is to make sure the Android application has the updated variables. So to do this, we select the Sync Data with Server button and confirm, and our new variables have been downloaded here. I'll select back, and now we're ready to begin the sample capture process. To begin the workflow, select the Sample Capture button. Select a shift, an area, a hole type. In this case, I'll be using reverse circulation drilling, although any of these options are available. Depending on the hole type that you choose, some or all of the variables below here may be available. In this case, we don't have an option for blast or drill program ID. Next, we enter a hole ID. This needs to be a unique identifier, and it might be scanned from a barcode, or it might be manually entered. In this case, I'll just be manually entering a hole ID. We can select a project, a pit, and a phase. Here we can choose to duplicate our intervals or not. The reason you might have duplicate intervals is that you might be sending one set of samples to a lab and sending another set to a storage facility. However, this is completely optional. You can check this or leave it unchecked depending on your requirement. In this case, I'll leave it unchecked, and then we can choose a depth for our hole. This is going to be the target depth that we'll be drilling to, and we don't necessarily have to hit this depth. We can stop the hole beforehand, but this will be our target depth for our drillers. So in this case, I'll set the depth to 10, and the interval length in meters is the section of the hole from which we'll be capturing a sample. Typically, this is 1 or 2 meters. However, you can set the interval length all the way up to 10 meters if you wish. In this case, I'm going to set the interval length to 1 meter. We can also set a start depth if we want to. The reason we might set a start depth is the hole has already been bored to a certain depth, and we don't want to resample that hole, or we might be discarding the top 2, 3, 4 meters of the hole because it's contaminated by topsoil. In this case, I'm going to set the start depth at 1 meter. I can select next. And here we are being prompted to select a depth for the random blank to be. If at the settings we had chosen more than one random blank, we would be shown an option for each of those random blanks. In this case, I'll leave it at 7, although if you're not happy with that depth, you can choose a different depth. I'll select next. And here we're presented with the main working interface. At this screen, we are shown the details of the hole at the top of the screen. We have the option to change the ID and the depth, to add a comment to each interval, and then we're shown what the current interval is. In this case, it's 1 meter to 2 meters. We have an option to record a barcode and a weight. So the first thing I'll do is scan a barcode and then enter a weight. When we're happy with this entry, we can select next and then scan another barcode. At the settings screen, I enabled a prefix for our primary barcodes, and the prefix was the letter S. If I scan a different barcode starting with the letter B, we'll be warned that the barcode does not have the correct prefix and it will be rejected. So I'll find my correct barcode and scan that and continue on working. If at any point I enter a weight that is above the maximum value, I'll be warned that the weight exceeds that max and it can't be saved. Likewise, if I enter a weight below the minimum and try to save that, I won't be allowed to. If I enter a weight that's above the minimum but below the warning weight, say 2.5 kilos, the application will prompt me and check, are you sure you want to save this weight? And the user can select no if they want to record it again, or they can select yes to accept the low weight. At this point, I'm being asked to enter a blank bag. There's no weight associated with a blank bag. This is going to be used as a control sample, which is going to be sent to the lab. The application is going to warn us to put the blank bag to one side. We select yes. At any point in this process, I can add a comment. And the comment can be any kind of text that you want. It might relate to the sample that was collected, perhaps the sample was contaminated, or it might relate to the workflow that's being carried out. I can also finish the hole at this particular depth if I want to. I can select the Finish button and select Yes. When we finish sampling a hole, we need to record the ground conditions for the hole. We select a ground condition from the drop down here for a given interval. So in this case, we'll select dry for the depth from 1 meters to 4 meters. Select next section, and now we need to choose a ground condition for 4 meters onwards. When all of the intervals have a ground condition recorded against them, we select the Finish Hole button and Yes. And we're returned to the hole settings screen where we can begin drilling another hole. If I select the back button here, we can see that the Sync Data with Server button has the number 1 against it. This means that there is one sample record to be uploaded. However, I'm not quite done yet. I might want to list the sample bags which are being sent to a lab, and to do that, I can select the List Sample Bags button. I'll then scan every single bag which is being sent to the lab. This is a simple list of all of the sample bags which are being sent to the lab or to storage, and it's generated as a separate data file. So those are all of the bags that I need to send, and I'll select back. Now we can see that we have 9 sample bags to send and 1 sample capture to send. So now I'll select the Sync Data with Server button and select OK. And all of my data has been uploaded. At this screen, I can choose to keep the data on the device if I'm not quite sure that it has reached its destination, and I might want to try sending it again or save it locally, or I can select Yes to clear all of the data from the device to avoid sending duplicate files in the future. In this case, I'll select the Yes button, and I'll be alerted that all the sample data has been cleared successfully. I select the back button, and you can see that the captions are no longer present on the List Sample Bags and Sync Data buttons. Now if I take a look at the PC client on the left-hand side, I can select the Open Folder button next to the Upload Data directory. And here are the data files which have been generated. The top file is the sample capture data, and the bottom file is the sample list data. If I open the top file, we can see that we have one entry for each interval that I've captured, including the hole ID, the barcodes, the ground conditions, and also the comments that I've recorded. This file is in a CSV format, so it can easily be imported into some external software or opened in Microsoft Excel, where the data can be manually manipulated if necessary. The bottom file contains a simple list of all of the barcodes which I scanned and the date and time that I scanned them. This is a helpful record of what was sent to a lab or a storage facility and might be kept for internal records, or it might be imported into an external software. So that is a basic overview of the function of the sample capture software. I'll be covering more complex workflows in other videos, so if this has not quite answered some of your questions, be sure to check those out, or you can contact DataNet support for more information. Thanks for watching.